Good evening, everyone, and welcome again to our show tonight entitled It Doesn't Have to Be Lonely at the Top. I am your host, Michelle Campbell, and I am so happy to be here again with you to talk about another very interesting topic. It's one you won't hear in the classroom or even in the boardroom. It's likely you won't hear much about it unless you have a mentor, a sponsor, or do your own research. Speaking of research, according to the Washington Post, only 8% of C suite executives, the highest corporate leaders, often those reporting to the CEO, are Black. The review also shows that the diversity chiefs, whom companies have increasingly relied on to foster inclusive workspace, workplaces, and expand career opportunities for underrepresented groups, are often not adequately empowered. Companies say they want to tackle systemic racism, but some people are just uncomfortable talking about race. So, since some companies won't talk about it, we're here to talk about it tonight. Hopefully, at the end of this show, you'll have a better understanding of the corporate game and the best way to play it. Tonight, I am pleased and honored to have three top Black executives with me to discuss their journey navigating through corporate America and how they made it to the top. We know everyone won't make it or doesn't even have a desire to be at the top. But for those who are trying to elevate, it is very important to understand how it can be done and how it relies less on your skills and abilities, but more on who likes you and who knows you and who respects you. I will start off with introducing our roundtable panelists and then get right into the question and answers. Be sure to ask your own questions live in the comments via Facebook or YouTube, and I'll try to get to them toward the end of the show. So, without further ado, let me introduce our panel. Marvin Bembry is the president of MKB Leadership Transformation and executive director of the John Maxwell team. He graduated from Marygrove College with an undergraduate degree in data processing and computer science. He is also the pastor of New Beginnings Ministries of Lake County, Illinois. Welcome to the show, Marvin.
Thank you, Michelle. It's an honor and a privilege to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Stacey Smith Morton. She is the vice president of My Mael, right?
Yes.
Is that right? Mael. She graduated from the University of Florida with a Bachelor of Science in Economics. And she has an MBA in marketing from DePaul Dryhouse, College of Business. Stacy is a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Lambda Psi chapter. Welcome to the show, Stacy.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Nice joining you as well, Marvin.
Likewise.
Thank you. Okay, so our last panelist, he is not here, but I will read his bio. He is Sean Ramsey, and he is the Vice President of Inside Sales at Granger. He graduated from St. Norbert College with a Bachelor of Arts in Communication, and he has an MBA in Finance and Organizational Design from the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. He is also the pastor of Bethany Lutheran Church in Chicago, Illinois. And he is doing his bivocational duty. One part of it is actually presiding over a funeral today. And so he'll be here as soon as he can step away from those responsibilities. All right, so we've heard the statistics. We are so excited to have you here this evening. And let's just go ahead and hear from the executives. I'm going to start with the first question, and anyone can feel free. Actually, I do want each one of you to answer this one. And so, in about a minute or so, please explain your career journey after leaving college and starting at a company. Talk about your rise to leadership that got you to your current leadership position. And either one of you can start first.
Go ahead, Stacey. I'll let you kick us
All
off.
right. Michelle, as you stated, I went to University of Florida undergrad and had internships, which many of us did in college in the consumer products industry. It was actually Johnson and Johnson. So that was really what catapulted my start in my career, and stayed within that industry, working for various companies, whether it's American Home Products, Johnson and Johnson, Alberto Culver, largely in the sales role. What I did do, though, through that transition is with one of the companies I worked with, Corning Consumer Products Company, decided to go back to school part-time to get my MBA and to also allow me to experience other functions outside of sales, marketing, customer marketing, et cetera. Had a better understanding of the P&L. So it led me to have better ability to do more than just my current function, which I think helped to excel and get me to a different level as I progressed through my career. And within the beauty industry, I worked with L'Oreal as an account manager in sales, as a director. And I believe what made the difference was my performance and my excel in sales, and having others look at me and see what I'm doing, even if I wasn't shooting for that VP role or wasn't shooting for that director and leadership role. Others are watching you. And I think that was probably the biggest transition that I went through, is understanding I had so much years of experience. Others saw that value, especially with the outcome of my sales results. Was promoted to VP of sales for drug and beauty channel with L'Oreal, and having that ability to now be at that table and to really get more of a larger lens on what it means to be a leader and how to bring others along, et cetera. But now fast forward, I'm working for an emerging brand in multicultural hair care. Very exciting. We're one of the fastest growing brands in hair care, and really taking some of my experience and leadership roles in the bigger companies and taking it to this brand that really started about 8 years ago is probably the most fulfilling and exciting opportunity, because I'm now literally able to do all the things I thought I could do on the bigger companies, and actually able to make such a difference and such an impact. So very excited about talking a little bit further with the group on opportunities on how to get to that table and how to stay there and make a difference.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that story. And I can say I was there for most of it. We kind of all started around the same time in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. And just to see you grow and blossom in your journey, your career, it's kind of like quite a few of us in our group kind of did the same thing, helped each other, supported each other in our journey, moving up the ladder. So, it's really good to have you here tonight to talk to us, and we'll hear more, I'm sure, later on as we go on. Marvin, let's move on to you, and you tell us a little bit about your journey as well. And now you have, I want to say, what, three, disparate type of responsibilities now. So let's talk about where you started out, and now how did you get to where you at, and we'll get it eventually on to talking about how you do all of this.
Right. So thanks, Michelle, and Stacey. What an impressive background there. My journey has been relatively circuitous, and it hasn't been a straight line. In fact, I've probably had 3 careers, right? Maybe more, but certainly 3 discrete places where I was able to start and grow and experience success. I'll start with starting off in corporate recruiting for a large IT services organization that had come to Detroit in support of General Motors. I was a corporate recruiter for that organization. And like Stacey, what helped grow me were my results. I was able to be very successful at recruiting people into the organization. And fortunately, philosophically, the organization had a viewpoint or a culture that looked at growing people from within, and that effectively your success in your last role was that would catapult you further. And so from corporate recruiting, Had a stint in operations supporting one of the nameplates of General Motors between engineering and IT. And then, because of my success, I got called back into corporate recruiting for what was supposed to be a TDY, a short-term assignment to hire, I think, about 1,000 people or so, be on a team to hire 1,000 people in about 3 months.
Hmm.
And that led to really an opportunity to do some groundbreaking work uh, in what we call today DEI. But at that time, it was only called diversity. And so I had an opportunity to start, lead, teach, pioneer, grow that business within the organization. That attracted further attention. Doing well attracts attention for other opportunities. And it was an opportunity to lead a startup nonprofit as a loaned executive. Um, and that took me to Baltimore, Morgan State University. I worked there in the School of Engineering and started up a nonprofit organization, or led first executive director of a nonprofit organization designed to increase the number of African Americans in engineering. Came back into the organization, did some work around supplier diversity, left that organization, did some Wall Street consulting, very circuitous rise, as you can see here. And then the last organization that I went to work for, Abbott Laboratories, started there, leading their training and development function for corporate engineering. That brought the attention of leaders who said, when I took my growth plan to what I would say would be my sponsor, he said, that's good, but because I was looking to grow in HR as a VP of HR, he said, have you thought about government affairs? So when a corporate officer asks you 3 times in 45 minutes, have you thought about something? Guess what? Hint, hint, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, you're thinking about that, right? And so my last role with Abbott and AbbVie was in government affairs. I became a lobbyist and I rose there. I'm now, quote unquote, retired from corporate, and now I do work as an executive coach, as well as I speak and I coach and I train. And so a lot of the work that I did just kind of offhandedly or even specifically in corporate, I now get to do and impact the lives of people, African Americans, and in fact, any spectrum along the line as well.
That is amazing. And um, I can attest to your skills. They are superb. I have come to my cousin, Marvin. Yeah, he's my cousin, y'all. A time or two to talk about my own personal career journey and, just being an executive myself and the challenges and, the pitfalls and the different strategies that you have to put together. So I advise, if you can get a coach or if you can get an executive sponsor, definitely it's well worth it. It's definitely helped me personally in my career. I didn't really have a blueprint to go by that I could actually reference, and so in many cases, people of color are first generation, maybe even in corporate white collar, and then even in executive C-suite. So we don't really have a lineage to go back on and say, hey, how did you do it, or how did you get this started, or what have you. So if you find someone that's good at doing that and is willing to share tips, techniques, and strategies, I'd say go for it. So Marvin, welcome definitely to the show. We know that what you're going to share tonight is going to be very beneficial to us. Um, I don't think Sean has joined. I'm going to keep going on until he does, because I have a real meaty question I want to ask you fellas. But for now, I'm going to hone in on a question for Stacey. So, Stacey, in many instances, you are likely the only Black woman executive in the boardroom and making critical decisions at that. What does it feel like? And how do you handle those looks, people's behaviors and their attitudes? And, it's really from other people who may not look like you and me. How do you handle that?
Well, I mean, it's a different circumstance now because I am with a Black owned business. But prior, kind of getting into that realm and that room, it is a little unsettling at first because oftentimes it did feel like questions would be asked. You almost have to prove yourself. And
Mhm.
that feeling of having to justify your reasons, you kind of feel a certain kind of way at first.
Yeah.
So I can't say that I had the solution on how to combat that. It was more so understanding, and even Marvin, you probably within your coaching is how do you articulate yourself to make those who aren't familiar or aren't as comfortable feel more comfortable. But I think what's helped me is the networking with other multicultural women,
Hmm.
whether it's African American, Latinx, et cetera, and understanding that they had similar experiences for different reasons, culturally. And that comfort of knowing that, I think, helped, at least to manage it, not take things so personal,
Yeah.
not become so defensive sometimes, or feeling the need to over explain or to prove
Hmm.
your credentials, ahead of time to validate yourself. So it could be exhausting in the beginning, but I think once you, get in the dynamic of it, get used to it, and be more comfortable and assertive, I think you demand the respect and have the opportunity to not have to be on such the defense, or
Yeah.
not feel nervous that you'll make others feel uncomfortable. But yeah, so it's definitely been a challenge when I was younger. I almost feel like the age was also a challenge
Hmm.
in your career. Even questioning. Especially when in sales, there were very few women. When I came up in sales, and as a female sales leader, it was a challenge sometimes being in that realm. But I think your performance, as you mentioned, Marvin, your performance proves everything, right? So just continuing that track helps. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. And yeah, and I know your disposition is one that is very calming and warming and opening. So that I think that helps too. Like it's easy to want to get upset, and like you said in the early days, it's like, what I got to prove to you? I got all these degrees, and I know this stuff better than you do, and But at the end of the day, it's like I think it all works itself out, right? I mean, you've had a couple of um, different opportunities with different corporations, and so in a sense, at least I've done it a couple of times. It feels like you gotta reintroduce yourself to the industry sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and unless it's kind of in the same vein of technology or products or different solutions, you have to reintroduce yourself. You have to show
Yeah.
them, yeah, I do know this stuff, I do come from this back, and I hate to reference old, my old company, we did. I hate when people do that, but sometimes it's like there are some good nuggets that you pull and draw from, your experiences, and that helps anchor you in your confidence as you walk into the door of a new corporation, and then having to do that, and many a time sitting around the boardroom and being mistaken for the administrative assistant, and when are we going to get the coffee? When is the coffee coming? And I'm like, I don't know. We can ask the admin, but I don't know where the coffee is. And so that's a surprise sometimes too. It only happened once, but it was enough to give me a little bit of a chuckle because I knew where they
Yeah.
were going. And at the same time, I was so glad to show them that no, we have a seat at this table too. So thank you for sharing your story and allowing me to add on to that with my own personal experiences.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to ask this to both of you. Have you ever done anything personally or even professionally that has broken down those barriers to assist you in your rise to leadership?
I'll take a stab at that, Michelle. I really want to, at the risk of some level of repetitiveness, just highlight and underscore something that Stacey and I both have said, and you have said as well, and that is nothing beats performance at a high level, right?
That's true.
Well, I guess you could strain and find some things that beats that maybe, but at the end of the day, your performance is perhaps one extraordinarily key method of growth. Now, it's not the only, right? But I do want to highlight that for our viewers because um, your success is going to depend on how well you perform
Mhm,
ultimately, right? But I
mhm.
think there are some other things as well that are crucial. You and I had a sidebar yesterday, and one of the things that we talked about was the whole notion of being likable, right?
Yeah.
uh, and in your demeanor, in your approach, in how you present yourself, your command of the language, your ability to inspire confidence by how you speak, how you intone, all of those specific communication strategies are crucial. I think the third piece that I'll speak to is how well you do in leadership, right? When
Mhm.
given an assignment to kind of prove your mettle, which just about everybody, regardless of color, is going to have those kind of assignments to prove your mettle. Um, how well you lead yourself and how well you influence others. My mentor, John Maxwell, says leadership is not title, rank, or position. Leadership is influence. So, how
Mhm.
Mhm.
well you lead yourself, influence yourself, and how well you're able to coalesce all of the above
Mhm.
relationships,
Right.
communication, self confidence to influence others are crucial to that matriculation within the organization. I think there are other things, chambers of commerce, a business association, learning how to play golf if or something, right? Uh,
Mhm.
but I think some of the soft skills and performance
Mhm.
probably the key things that you and I and our viewers need to keep top of mind. Stace?
Yeah, Marvin, you hit a good one. The likability. It sounds real simple, but it honestly is really a strong nugget that you don't often think about, because you mostly think, oh, it's just your performance, and whether you like me or not, I'm making it happen. But at
Right.
the end of the day, really, that likability is a unique piece that I think folks should definitely take to heart. And for me, what I sort of learned late in my career was networking and mentorship, and
Mhm.
really having someone be an advocate for you. So I mentioned that, having someone sponsor me, I'll admit that it happened organically and them
Mhm.
reaching out. But I know if they hadn't, they had already matriculated through leadership role all the way up to the top. So literally, literally the top. And if I didn't have that person reaching down to pull me up, I'll admit I don't know if I would be in that seat. And so I
Mhm.
think networking, and women sometimes were a little bit more conservative with that. And that's something that I would definitely lend as a tool to network, not only get a mentor, but also be a mentor.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great, great point. I'll never forget when I was speaking with a director. I was just maybe a senior manager or something, and I was struggling to try to get to that next level. I mean, to break that one level from management to director, certain companies, it's like almost impossible. People spend their
Hmm.
whole career at that level, right? And so I never forget going to my director and I say, I think I'm busting my tail. I'm doing everything right. Perfect performance reviews. I work hard late. I got a family. I'm juggling everything. What is it? What is it? Why can't I get to the next level? And he looked me squarely in the face and he said, it has not a lot to do with your skills, Michelle. Yes, we know you do a great job. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be in this level, but it's about who likes you. And I was like, what? And that was like, woo, a big eye opener for me because I literally and I think a lot of us do this, is that you think, if I do a good job, I got a good grades in college, came from a good school, I do this and this, and this, I work really hard, extra hours, all this stuff, they're gonna move me up. No, 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 not necessarily. You'll just be that hard-working person over in the corner somewhere, and they wouldn't even know your name. And so,
Mhm.
one of the things, Stacey, if you recall, when we started the Lady Tees, right? Our golf league, we started a women's golf league. And
Mhm.
so we did it socially, as well as we all were like, look, we want to get up to the level. We know everybody played golf. We don't know a thing about golf.
Yeah.
We took professional lessons. We played every Saturday in various golf courses around the Chicagoland area. And actually, it actually did help for me. I'll tell you personally, it helped for me. I say my best moment was when the president of Nokia asked me for a round to play a round of golf with him in Dallas. And
Mhm.
it was about 100 degrees in the middle of the summer, and he was kicking my tail. And I was like, I know this game better than this. What's going on? But come to find out, he lived on that golf course too. This was the North American president. So he had an advantage. He only played 5 days a week there. But needless to say, the fact that I got the invitation, I
Mhm.
mean, there's a million people he could have asked, right, to play golf. And he asked me along with a couple other my colleagues, and I was the only woman. And it was definitely one of those shining moments in my career. And since, from that point, my CEO was looking for a foursome women's golf. He was doing a charity. He was supporting a charity, and I think he put like, $25,000 or something down for a golf tournament, and they
Wow.
needed a foursome, and they needed four women, and three of them were already in the C-suite, and they came and asked me. And at the time, I was not in C-suite, but they had heard about me playing with Nokia and all this other stuff. So it's like, okay, we know who we could get for this game. So literally, I had a whole day sitting there with other C-suite women on the golf course.
Mhm.
And so I know people say, oh, you went too far, you did too much. No, actually, I like golf. It was fun. I wish I could do more of it, but we purposely, pulled that team together because we thought that would be a mechanism in which we can get into those conversations
Yeah.
that
Right.
sometimes do not happen at the boardroom. They happen at the golf course, or in the after hour party, event, or whatever they do. And if you're not in it, you're just missing out. And
Mhm.
so, anybody who's listening to this, if you think you might, be moving up and you like golf, I say go for it. I say
Absolutely.
go for it. And I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, so that was kind of a personal thing, but ended up being a very professional opportunity for me personally. Let me move on to the next question, and either one of you can answer this, or both of you can answer it. Why do you think that there are only a handful of Black executives in corporate America, when many of us have the necessary credentials and work ethics to be considered for leadership positions?
Wow. What a question. How much time do we have here?
I know, right?
Because I really think there are a myriad of reasons, right? I don't think that there's just one particular reason, right?
Yeah.
I think there's some internal reasons, internal to uh, us as people. I think there's some external, environmental contributing factors as well. So let me start with maybe some of the external factors. One, of course, opportunities, right? And
Mhm.
Stacey's mentioned about, perhaps she wouldn't be where she is today had not someone kind of sponsored her and created opportunity for her. So oftentimes, we're not in the conversation, the talent management review
Yeah.
sessions when they're looking at 2 to 5 years from now, who do we need to be placed there, right? And so without that, then the opportunities are often limited, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, So I think that whole sponsorship notion, I've told that story oftentimes about how I ended up in a field of endeavor that I had that was not in my plan at all,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right? But a corporate officer who actually brought me into the company, interestingly enough. So he was my sponsor, is the one who looked and said, hey, got my eyes on you. I think you could be effective in this role that I had no experience in, but
Mm-hmm.
was comfortable that the capacity that I had would be able to work there. So sponsorship is crucial. I think the other element here is role models from an external standpoint. Both of you have kind of spoken to the limited number of women and women of color in senior level positions, or even men of color for that matter, right? So when you don't have role models that you can look up to and have some level of aspiration, legitimate aspiration by virtue of seeing it and feeling it. If you can't touch them, just to be able to say, yeah, I'm gonna be like John. Yeah, it's possible, right? But then I think there's some crucial internal things that are very, very important. And one of them is mindset. Yes, to a great degree, our external environment influences our mindset.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I think that we can do some work on ourselves, and through coaching allows the invisible to be made visible, to create strategies around some of our limiting ideas and limiting mindset. This is where we can do work ourselves to help us grow personally. I think everyone should have the opportunity to have someone that can walk alongside of them in their journey, whether that's a coach, or mentor, sponsor, or someone that can encourage them to step out of their comfort zone, right? To step even out of a comfort zone that has worked well in the past, but is just insufficient to be able to take you to the next level, right? And then, of course, there's those little performance things, right? As a coach, I work with people, and I look at how people show up, even for coaching sessions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wow. Okay, you're having some issues in the workplace, but it's not
You think?
entirely surprising to me, just based on how you show up for a coaching session, right? So
Yeah.
the attention to detail and all of those kinds of things that I know you all know very well. So I think there's a myriad of reasons, internal, external. I just hit a few of them, and I'm sure there are others.
No, honestly, Marvin, I think you really hit the key ones. I think the one I take away from that is really getting out of your comfort zone. If you're not taking some risk or feeling a little comfortable, how are you growing, right? So I think that's just an important element to just challenge folks to really, step out of that, and get some more experience. And yeah.
So, as executives, what have you two done to help advance other qualified Black employees in their careers, either within your company or being maybe as a mentor or sponsor for people outside of your company?
Well, for me, at least when I became a manager, my prior role before being with Mayel, it was a challenge because I inherited, right, a sales team. And in that process, there were opportunities where I was able to mentor and help develop and grow and have them matriculate into other parts of the organization. So that, was a fulfillment for myself as well. But then also being a new leader and understanding how to find a person that would fit not just the role, but the culture of an organization. So I was learning and growing as a manager. And really, my most empowering ability is now being a leader, with an organization where I had to build a sales team and offer opportunities to folks that may not get that in a typical big CPG company. So I felt like it wasn't just filling a role, but filling an opportunity that for some may not happen. So for me, that's been a great opportunity because I know coming from the big CPG companies knowing that oftentimes folks have strengths but may not fit a mold, but that
Mhm.
uniqueness and the differentiation may lend to a dynamic, a diversity that's even more dynamic than just a person of color. Oftentimes
Mhm.
they say, as long as you check off a list and have a person of color, they sometimes still put us in a certain box.
Oh
They're
yeah.
comfortable with certain, people of color. So I really feel, for me, and being in the multicultural company right now and hiring folks of color, I can even be diverse within the team that I'm
Yeah.
building. So yeah, it's been very exciting. It's a very exciting journey, and it's definitely different depending on where you are within what type of organization that you're in. But I definitely love the opportunity of offering something to someone that may be more challenged in a typical corporate environment.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. I'll just add to that real quick is when I had a chance to have summer interns in my department, I did go back to my university, which is a predominantly white institution. However, within the engineering college, I was able to talk to our National Society of Black Engineers. So, again, for people who are watching this who may not have quite completed college yet, get into organizations too, because those organizations could carry you into your professional careers. I reached out to our NESB uh, population within the school, and that's where I got my interns for the summer. And you know, although maybe it didn't pan out that they wanted to necessarily be in product management, at the end of the day, they did appreciate the opportunity because, again, there's certain things, like you said, government affairs, Marvin. I mean, you probably didn't know about that when you're in college. It's like, I didn't know about product management. I was going to engineering, you be an engineer, but there's so many facets, and so giving people opportunities to see the different facets of the industry of corporate America, besides just finance, legal, sales, marketing, engineering, just cut and dry. There's so many or I would say extensions of careers, opportunities. And, just having the opportunity to, when I had the moment, to bring somebody in and say, okay, I want to give you a shot because, someone gave me a shot one time. So, and they were great. They were excellent in what they did. They worked very hard. It's I guess some kind of stereotype out there that we don't work as hard as others, but we absolutely do, especially the ones that are coming in who are trying to, prove like, hey, I am worthy of being here. So, just giving us that shot. And if I can ever do it, if I can ever give someone that is qualified, I'm not just bringing people in for the sake of, right? And like you said, now, Stacey, you're in a, predominantly black or multicultural environment, you can now be diverse in what so I
Yeah.
love that. I mean, who would have thought, right? In that you have that opportunity to do that. So this isn't just like a one-way street. We it's really about being inclusive and
Hmm.
bringing diverse talent, because what I noticed, especially being in cellular market, black folks use cell phones too, and they had a lot of pretty creative ideas, and the ways that they use the phone may differ from the white collar majority. And so just listening to other people gives you an opportunity to open up your aperture to other ideas and creativity, right? So it's just it's that's how we're wired. That's how God made us, and we all have talents and gifts, and so we you just got to go and tap into all of it. You can't leave anything behind. That's all I say. You can't say, oh, this group over here, you have a stereotype about them, and I'm not going to be bothered with them. That may be the very group that blows your whole company up in a positive way and brings you to the next level. So never, never, never discount because of color, race, backgrounds, and so forth. Okay, I'm going to go to the next question for you guys. And this is about resources, really. And I think you touched on a few of them, but do you have any resources that you would recommend people pursue, like particular books or publications, TED Talks, podcasts, or whatever, to assist in their planning of their career and advancing through corporate America?
Yeah, I think there's just a whole number of resources. YouTube is one of those resources filled with incredible TED talks that can be inspiring and motivating and also instructive. Three books that I'll recommend would be Simon Sinek's book "Start with Why," um, and what I find, and certainly as a coach, is that if people aren't clear on their why,
Mm-hmm.
then it really clouds and diffuses their energy, right?
Hmm.
You ask them, well, what do you want to do? Uh, what do you really want to do? What is
Mm-hmm.
your why? And
Hmm.
so as we think about progress up or across a corporate landscape, we really need to have some thoughts there around our why, right? What is our purpose here? I'm also going to suggest another work, which might be a little bit counterintuitive, and it's called Think and Grow Rich. There's the
Mm-hmm.
classic one, right? Napoleon Hill back in
Mm-hmm.
the 30s, 1930s. But then there's also Think and Grow Rich, a Black choice.
Oh,
Hmm.
wow.
Mm.
And and so that's a more recent public. I think that was maybe back in the 70s or 80s or so. And the reason that I would recommend that particular work is because Scripture says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." And
Mm.
so our challenge
Mhm.
as Black people is not limited to the environmental access or constraints. Mm. Our challenge is really limited to our own internal constraints.
Mhm. Here,
Mm-hmm.
here.
Our ability to think and to expand our mindset is the greatest hindrance or opportunity for us to grow. And so Think and Grow Rich offers real in-depth, challenging reading to help us grow rich, think and grow,
Mm-hmm.
not just monetarily, but otherwise. Two other works. One, 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by John Maxwell, my mentor. Personal growth is the predecessor to leadership growth and corporate growth. So 15 valuable laws of growth. And then the second one really is about leadership. And the leadership Bible would be the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership by John Maxwell. When you need inspiration, Les Brown is
Mhm.
great inspirational talks as well. But those four works or five works, I think would add value to anyone, regardless of where you are in the corporate sphere.
I really can't follow that. I'll have to admit, Marvin, I'm trying to write down the books that you named. As a leader, as a new leader, I should say, that I'm behind on really looking at resources to really help within my role because I'm pretty much grinding on the day to day. And, you give
Mhm.
advice to your team on, doing additional educational programs, training, different books, Harvard reviews, etc.
Yeah.
But I haven't even taken my own advice to just stop, sit down and take a moment and learn and grow. So I am definitely on the scope of really needing to go in that direction. I do also, feel like shadowing, is an opportunity as far as
Oh,
helping.
yeah.
I think that's, the only other part that I think is very helpful, whether it's even internal within your organization or externally. And so I think I would, possibly add that as additional ways of growing. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. I was just looking up some of these and taking my own personal notes here because I I do believe if you ever have the time, and to your point, Stacey, sometimes you're on the grind. You're like, we only got 24 hours in the day, and I don't know
Right.
about you, but these weeks go by so fast. It's like it was just Monday yesterday, and now it's about to be Friday. That's how I feel in my mind, especially when
Mm-hmm.
it comes with things to do. So, and then when you're on vacation, you don't want to be reading books and stuff. You're trying to
Right.
sleep in and do all that stuff. So we got to figure it out. We got to have the little bit of balance and what have you. And speaking of balance, I was going to wait for Sean to come on, but I want to ask Marvin a question because I'm struggling. When I found out, I didn't even know cuz you was doing all this stuff. When I found out that he had a trivocation, and I'm trying to understand. You got your corporate, you got your, the John Maxwell executive director, and you've got the your ministry, and you're coaching and mentoring and doing all this stuff. You got 24 hours in a day. You got a family. You got all of that. How in the world? Tell us, how do you balance it? I think that is, as executives, we don't get enough coaching on that particular topic.
In fact, thank you. In fact, Michelle, I was thinking some of the same things about you because you are just an incredibly busy but productive person, and you're multitasking and trying to find balance as well. I think, but I think to your point, though, this is one of uh, the personal growth areas that all of us aspiring for leadership growth or positional growth within organizations really do um, have to seek prowess and capacity here. One of the things that I would say that I say to people that I coach is this whole need for reflection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can start with just 10 minutes a day of reflection. What went right? What went wrong? What can I do better? What are the key learning points for today? And regardless of how busy we all are, all of us have 10 minutes, right? All of us have
Yeah.
5 minutes that we can just stop and reflect. John says that reflection allows learning to catch up with you.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Allows the learning to catch up. So when it comes to this notion about balance, I would first of all argue that balance is the truth of the matter is that balance is elusive.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There is a constant tension. Balance is only created through the opposing tension.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a dynamic process. That is not a static kind of experience, right? So
Yep.
the whole notion that one can find balance, I think, is a bit elusive,
Mm.
right? You're always seeking, right? Trying to balance the tension rod based on
Mm.
purpose and so forth. But I think it's that latter piece, though, that helps us in terms of the whole time piece. And what do I mean by that? The purpose element, the mission. When you find your purpose, your why, like your reason, then you can begin to eliminate so many extraneous things that
Mm-hmm.
really don't fit your purpose.
Mm.
Right? They're
Yeah.
nice, they're
Yeah.
interesting, and they're time consuming,
Yeah.
right? And they eat up your time. And so what I've been able to do is I can't say that I did a great job at understanding
Mm-hmm.
this back when, but I understand it so much now. And Michelle, I asked you last night, I said, what's your purpose, right? What's your
Mm-hmm.
why, right? And now I get it. I wish I had learned it a few years ago, but I understand it now. So now what I have is the ability to filter all of the environmental stuff that can come my way through my purpose. If it doesn't fit my purpose,
Mm.
Yeah.
then that's time that I don't need to waste.
Right.
That makes
Yeah, you
sense?
only got 24 hours, and it seems like it's only 12, really. You boil it down. And then we got to sleep sometime in between there.
Yeah.
So, I initially had this to the pastors, but I'm gonna ask you too, Stacey, because I know we're talking about jumping on planes tomorrow. We got to go here, we got to go there, we got to do this, we got to do that. How do you handle it? And you got younger kids than me that, I mean, you got some of my age, but you got younger, so tell me, girl. I mean, we don't get to talk about this enough. We just be running, making it happen.
Marvin kind of hit it, and it wasn't intentional. I'll have to admit, but the reflection part, because I am always running so much, I'll have to, my mom, she's, wake up in the morning, just take a moment for yourself. And sometimes you wake up and the first thing you're thinking is, let's get the kids up, let's do this. And my mother-in-law actually mentioned it, when I was first married and had kids, about just taking a moment. And I didn't do it in my younger days. And you're trying to multitask. And it's not until late in life that I realized that's just not a goal, really attainable goal, without it turning into other dynamics. With it can be stress, and that can impact your well-being and the balance. But just even a Bible app that you're just reading your verse and just taking a moment. Meditation wasn't natural for me. It's still not easy, but there's apps out there that I think, Calm app, and just different types of platforms that, if you're not naturally doing it, that it assists. I think the other advantage of having young ones is that they sometimes make you just pause.
Yeah.
It allows you to be in the moment. They almost demand it. So, fortunately, I've been blessed with that, but I have to be more intentional at it, sometimes. And, I'm not one of those folks that, yay, I'm, making sure I work out every morning, and, I carve out that time, because it's always something different every different day. But you can, like you said, Marvin, everybody has 10 minutes at least for yourself. And it sounds so simple, but I had to really intentionally do that, with a reminder to just read a verse, reflect, and, incorporate that in the day to day. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, both of you are incredible. I mean, it's only 24 hours in a day, and I appreciate just you taking these moments here. This is precious time for yourself, just to even be on this show, but it's so important, and not often talked about. And so, I'm just glad you guys were here to share this with us. We do have a couple of questions online that I did want to touch on. The first one that I see here, and I'm not, let's see. Okay. I'm just saying, let's see. First one, let's see. How does one achieve a perception of being likable and approachable at the same time maintaining authenticity? To borrow from the vernacular, keeping it real and not selling out. So, you know, how, yeah, go ahead, yeah, because I can answer. I got a thought on that, but go for it.
I'll honestly have to say, I don't think it's a dichotomy. I don't think being authentic means that you can't be likable.
Yeah.
And I do feel that sometimes we have to see a reflection of ourselves. I kind of went through corporate America, and just by nature, maybe my personality is likable. But I remember the first manager that we kind of bumped heads on. I'm thinking, wait a minute, everybody likes me. How can we have this issue? And but I remember whatever dynamic that he had that I was challenged with, I had a certain way I responded, or a certain way that I interacted with him. And, he reiterated what he saw, kind of like a mirror that I really didn't honestly see for myself. So
Mm.
the candidate, the person who put out the question, he may feel that, being authentic and being real might contradict, that he didn't want to sell out. But sometimes you have to stop and pause and be in that other person's shoes to see how your reflection truly is. And I think there's just a little bit of self-awareness that sometimes we don't have. It doesn't mean that you have to sell out. And I think the one big advice that I got that I do work on is just listening more, and you just assume you're listening. But I learned that from a manager that I bumped heads with.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
an interesting experience. Look who we got on here.
I, I,
Sean Ramsey.
I,
Pastor Ramsey has shown up in the building. How are you, sir?
oh, I am so good. I apologize for being late. I had to do a funeral and it went a little bit into overtime. So please accept my apologies.
We understand. So we were just talking about balance. Maybe that's a good question for you. How are you handling it? Being a pastor of a church and having to juggle being an executive vice president of inside sales. I mean, how are you doing it?
You know, I would tell you it's a couple of things. One is know your limitations. You can't take on every battle, and so you've got to be comfortable knowing that there's some things you just can't handle. And as you think about those things that you can't handle, you need to surround yourself with people that you have a lot of confidence in that can kind of pick up where you fall short. So, in the church, making sure that I've got good people around me that can carry out things like Bible class, like Sunday school, prayer meetings, so that those are times where I can be busy doing some other things. When I'm on the job, making sure that I've got the right leaders in place so that I don't have to tend to every issue that comes up. You know, someone once told me that if you hire right the first time, it'll make your life easier. While it's harder to choose who you'll bring in.
Yeah.
If you spend the time up front and getting the right folks, you
Mm-hmm.
don't find yourself in a situation where you've got to fire folks and you've got to micromanage. You take the time, bring the right people in, and you'll be all right.
I like that, Sean. I really do. And you hit on a really interesting point that we hadn't really touched on is that having that support group around you, having that team. I can't stress that enough. I've had some teams I've acquired. I had to condition or transition. I've had teams that I've brought in, and just being able to trust someone. And I think Marvin and I were talking about this last night. I said, when you know that you can entrust something with someone on your team and you can step away and believe that it will be done the proper way, that just frees you up. We were talking about this work life balance and just
Yes.
trying to juggle a million and one things. I mean, just being on this show right here is yet another ball that you all are juggling on behalf of me, and I love you guys for that. By the way, that you did not have to do this, but it's
Well,
an
you
important
promised you
topic.
promised me Michigan State football tickets. So I know what you promised Marvin and Stacey. By the way, it's a pleasure meeting you guys. Don't know
Yes.
Well,
what you
well,
promised them,
Sean,
but
Sean, you just opened it up here, so thanks for letting me know what you're getting out of this.
Right.
I ain't made no promises yet, but oh, well, I hope to go to homecoming. So maybe that's October 15th. Maybe you guys show up there. I don't know. I mean, Chicago, Lansing, it ain't that far. It's not that far.
No.
It ain't nothing but a short drive. Come on through. But I just boy, this could go on forever. I know we're at the top of the hour. We did have another comment, which I feel I understand. The statement is, I may not want to go to the company bowling night out just to ingratiate myself. Although I recognize that's how the majority culture informally networks. So I understand that because I get my nails done every 2 weeks, and boy, I'm not picking up a bowling ball to save my life. But I might just go and show my face in the place and say hello. I may never pick up a ball or put any shoes on, but there was a day where I did do that when I was younger, but I wasn't really affording to pay for my nails and stuff. Now I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna mess my nails up, but I will show my face in a place. I will do things, even if it's for a short spell. You don't have to stay there and wait and close the place out. But I do suggest that there's like again, we talked about at the top of the meeting or the show here. So like we in meetings. No, we're not in a meeting. We're in the show. The top of the show, we talked about, people being likable, approachable. People like people that they feel they have something in common with. And if you even just take the, 2 minutes to, say, hey, I'm gonna go in here for drive up here and sit in here for a half hour, and I'm gonna take off. I think that would be appreciated. I mean, you don't have to do it every single time, but you got to do it sometime. I hate to say it, you do it, especially as a leader, because you got a team. Your team is there. You're not there. That's not a good look. So just something to think about. I don't know if anybody want to touch on that.
Can I add 3 seconds since I missed
Yes,
the
please.
whole beginning? I feel like I need to unburden myself. Uh, I think Michelle went through a little bit of our intros, but both Michelle and I, our paths crossed while we were at Motorola together, and she may actually remember this, but it's a class that I took early on in my career. It was called Efficacy for Minority Professionals, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember it,
I
but the
do.
best lesson that I got from that is that they drew this V on the board, and there was a right side and a left side of the V. The right side represented everything that our parents had told us. They told us if you work really hard in school, if you get good grades, if you go to college, you get your master's, and you work longer hours than everybody else, that at the end of the day, you are going to be sitting at the top of the company.
Hmm.
And that's all they told us. They forgot to tell us about the left side of that V. And that left side is really around the networking piece. And Michelle, you just hitting on it. That, if I go to the golf outings, if I go to the Christmas party, if I go to the social hours that they have, that it's not enough just to be good at your job.
Yeah.
And as much as I know people want to turn it to a black and white thing and say, well, white people hire white people, vice versa, right? At the end of the day, people hire people that they are comfortable with.
That's it.
And if I don't know anything about you and I don't know what makes you tick, it is difficult for me to get past anything else. And so you wonder why there's somebody else who works just as hard. They get just as good numbers as you, but for some reason they seem to be buddy buddy with the guy who's hiring, and they tend to be the one who gets the job. It's
Mm-hmm.
not because they're better than you, it's because there is some common ground and some familiarity. So if you have a choice, and to Michelle's point, I'm not saying go to the party and get drunk, I'm not saying be the last person to leave the event, but what I am saying is get to the event so that people can know you outside of what you do 8 hours a day.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so true. Now I know we got one of our executives got to run because she got some executive work to do. I don't want to hold you any longer. So Stacey, at any time you need to drop, just feel free to drop. But I thank you and I love you and I appreciate you for spending time with us on the show this evening. And we will definitely be in touch soon. The next time I'm back in Chicago, we definitely have to connect. But
Now, I want to
feel
say,
free.
Michelle, this is excellent. I don't mean to cut you off, but I feel like this was beneficial to me. I know we're brought here to help empower and educate others, but Marvin and even Sean, just the few minutes you've been on, and I'm writing down the books and reminding myself to take a moment and, the why, and just remembering the why and filtering out the things that don't fit your purpose. And I just feel like I'm leaving with a lot of lessons learned. So I really appreciate you pulling this together. I hope to stay in contact with you both, Marvin and Sean, as well. You just got a breadth of folks in your network, Michelle. So I think to your point, Sean and Marvin, the networking is just so important, and I appreciate it. So I love it. You guys,
Great.
good evening and weekend.
All right, hon. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
So I don't want to belabor and keep this going on, but It has definitely been a great conversation. I've got some really good feedback in the comments here. Great life lessons, great conversation, very informative. We can't have enough of these type of conversations. And if you recall, Sean, we used to do a thing called the, what was it, Black Corporate Panel Discussion, right? Or
Mhm.
something to that effect. And that was probably the most Black executives we had at one particular time at the corporation. And for me, as a person that aspired to be an executive, it was always good to have those sessions because I learned something from it.
Yeah.
I understood your struggles. And even in the prep, when we were trying to get together and prep for the actual event itself, just to have all the black top brass on the call to have that conversation about what they want to talk about, and they're talking about their own things because we don't get a chance to get together, even us. We should have, and maybe it exists, I don't know, but there should be a black executive come together conference of some sort, and of all disciplines, not just engineering, finance, legal, sales, or what have you, but just in general, just come together and share stories, give ideas and tips. And maybe it's something, I don't know if it exists or not, but maybe it's something I'll start one day. Who knows? But
Well,
I just think this is always refreshing. This has always been refreshing. Even before I became an
Mm.
executive, it was very refreshing to just sit down with other people who are going through the same thing. I talk, like, now I work with a very international team. I was talking to a woman from over in Europe, and she's having the same, she's going through the same thing I'm going through. And I'm like, we were supposed to be meeting about a particular topic. We just sat and just opened up, right? And
Mm.
just shared. And then we had to go and make a meeting for the real thing. But it was, I think for that 45 minutes we had, it was worth it, just to woosah, it's not just you. You're not in this by yourself. Everybody's got this challenge. It's not an easy thing to be at the top, and you don't, and we're not by ourselves. That's another thing to note is that
Yes.
sometimes we get very myopic and we just focus on what we got to do, and we got our 24 hours, and we just do our thing. But there's other people doing the same thing, got the same 24 hours, the same struggles, the same challenges. We could really share. I mean, once a quarter, once a year, I don't care what it is, but we could really share and learn from each other. And Sean, you've been my mentor for years, and we've just talked, and even before I became an executive, about things, what I should do, leaving companies, going to new companies, and
Yes.
all of the above. And you got everybody on this. Have I've grown from each one. Stacey
Mm.
and I with the golf league. Marvin being my cousin, being the executive coach who has mentored me, and Sean just in our own professional career working with you. But aside from just working with you, but being able to learn from you.
Well, I'll say this first, Marvin. She brags about you, so I gotta somehow, some kind of way, you and I gotta connect and get to know each other a little bit better. And Michelle, to your point, that's what it's all about: is making sure that as we climb, that we are helping everybody else climb. There
Mhm.
is a organization called the ELC, the Executive Leadership.
I remember that. I think I went one year. You guys were so kind to drag me along. It was in DC when
right.
I
It was
remember,
in
right?
DC.
The ELC, yes.
So the ELC, and I'm not politicking for them because they're not paying me, and
Right.
I haven't qualified yet to join. But that organization's purpose, its sole purpose, is to give training grounds for minority professionals, and so they've got things like mid-manager symposiums where they
Yeah.
allow you to come and to learn different skills. They have an executive leader conference where you get to
Hmm.
spend a week with other leaders across the company, and then there's a huge gala where you see there are not very many African American CEOs,
Yes.
but you'll see those folks at that event, And it's really a chance for us to come together to pour into one another. Because you're right, your journey is my journey. Your trips are my trips. Whatever you're going through, I'm going through it too. And sometimes you need to just have that person you can call on, that person you can lean on, that can say, you know what, I went through the same thing. I made it through. You can make it through too. Just keep looking, keep coming. Don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. And it's a fantastic organization, but it's called ELC, and you can find it on the web. Just type in Executive Leadership Conference.
I'm glad you brought that up. I remember the executives at Motorola invited me to come one year, and I loved it. I loved it. And I almost forgot about it. I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm about to Google them and type them up and see what I can do to get in that. But thank you. Yes, thanks for that reminder. ELC, I surely remember it. And I remember the gala. I remember Jerome Bettis was there the year I went, and there was so many other who's. And I saw one of my girlfriends that used to work at, oh God, what is it, DuPont, I think, or something. So yeah, it's an awesome opportunity. And thank you. Thanks for reminding me.
No worries. Like I said, it is about, and I know I'm running over, so don't feel compelled to hold the show longer just because I showed up late. I should have showed up on time. I promise the next time you invite me, I can't promise it ain't gonna be a funeral, but I'll do my darndest to be on time. But that's what it's about.
Yeah, right.
It's about supporting one another because we're in this thing together. Like I said, I can't make it if you don't make it. The old days of wanting to be the token that's sat in the room are long gone. I don't want to be the token. I want more of me sitting around the boardroom. I want more of me having some semblance of wealth. I want more of me sitting on boards, and I want more of me going back into our neighborhood and serving as mentors to help the next generation get to where we're at today, because they're not going to make it without us.
They're not.
So,
you're right.
Let me just hit on that. I appreciate your passion that you just shared with that. And again, Michelle, we can close whenever, because we could probably.
Well, I got two pastors on. We might go into overtime. I got the pastors on now. It's overtime. This is the afterglow. We in the second half.
But no, I think as you were saying, I want to see this. I want to see this. I don't want to be just the token. Well, here's the other side of this. That's great, and we all want that, yes. But as business leaders, there's a business benefit to us being at the table. It accrues value to our enterprises if we're at the table.
Say that.
Let me close with this. Citigroup did a study a few years ago in 2020. It was a 20-year study. You probably have seen it. That said that the cost of racism to the United States over 20 years, just from 2000 to 2020, the impact to the GDP was 16 trillion. That's with a T.
Right.
$16 trillion.
Whoa.
What is America and our corporations, what are they losing by not having us there? So we want to see it. Yes, it makes us feel good. It gives us aspirational look, etc. But hey, to the businesses we lead and serve and the customers, what innovation is being lost by us not being at the table?
Yeah,
that's right. That's right, man.
That's it.
Do I leave it there, or do I take it another step? This could be one of them tag. This could be one of them tag teams. Listen, I will say this. We just sat down a few African Americans, and we had a conversation, and we read this Harvard business case, and I can't remember the title offhand. I will send it to you guys after this is over. But what it talked about was it's time to move. So you just stated the business case, right? There's a business case, a financial business case that says if you don't have diversity, and I'm going to define diversity in a very myopic way, because it's more of me, African American, sitting at the table. There is a business case that says you lose creativity, you lose the opportunity to innovate, and that costs you money. You just heard Marvin give you the figure. But now here's the other side of it that Harvard Business School said. They said not only does it cost you money, but get this, it's the right thing to do.
Hello.
It is absolutely the right thing to do. And until you can, the business case, people will quote it, they will say it, they will throw the numbers up there. But until we can sit down and have the right types of conversations and look inside and say to ourselves, it is the right thing to do.
Right on.
We will continue to struggle. And it's not about equality, right?
Yes.
I don't want equality.
No.
Equality is saying you can have a box and I can have a box, but if you're taller than me and we're both trying to stand on the box to see the baseball game, that don't get me what I need. I need equity. Equity basically says that you're going to give me a bigger box so that I can catch up with where you are.
That's it.
And so that's the right thing to do. All right, I'm done, Michelle, because I'll start.
Okay, no, this is great. I mean, I just know we're gonna have to have a follow-up for sure, for sure. And it's been wonderful having you on. Thank you all for joining. Thanks, Stacey Smith Morton, who was on earlier, who had to leave because she's got executive duties. Thank you, Marvin, for being here, talking with us in this extended time too, and Sean coming on. You're juggling the world right now, and I just appreciate that you can give us a minute or two of your time to share your experiences. And I'm going to close with that. And I want to thank everybody on Smack Nation who is watching this and who's watching the replay, because even though there may not be a lot that go live and watch it, there's a gazillion people afterwards who watch the show. They hear about it. They want to find out more about it. They go back and reference it. So I just thank you to have this opportunity to capture this moment and share this out to the world. And if you haven't joined Smack Productions, please do so, everyone out there. We are also on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. You can look us up, Smack Productions. That's S period, M period, A period, C period Productions. And with that, I'm just going to say thank you very much and good night. We are done.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night.